Morning, my lovelies. It was really nice to see you all yesterday because it's been a bit weird having a class without a class without a class. And I haven't had a chance yet to see my seniors, so it was quite nice to catch up with some of you. Bit of a shame not to catch up with some of the rest of you, but hopefully those of you who were there will have gained something from the lesson and will find the activity much easier than those of you who weren't. And that's, for those of you who weren't there, see what you can do to be there next time around, because I think we had a valuable discussion and it was a really nice way to catch up. Yeah. So today's activity, you've kind of already done an activity that's really similar to it. It's the Pratt. Your place, role, action, tension and time. When we last did it, we looked at just the characters that you were performing as. This time we're going to look at the play in its entirety, so just stepping back a little bit further. So first of all, the place. Where is Twelfth Night set? And why is that significant? Try not to overthink it, because you can easily just Google the name of the place. Nice and simple. But if you're going for a merit or an excellence, you're going to want to look at things like why is the place being an island and having that shipwreck so important to the rest of the plot, and whether or not people have options or whether or not people could leave, if that makes sense. Where is the place in terms of like society, because you've got the position that various people are in, that there are clearly some very high status characters and some middle status characters and some low status characters, and then you've got some outsiders coming in. So how does that way that society has been put together in this particular place impacting on the characters themselves? Okay, so the second one being role. So the roles or the characters that are in the play. So who are the important characters and how are they connected to one another? Some of the connections we don't see until the very last scene, such as Sebastian and Viola are twins, but we don't see them together until the very end. So why is that important? When we first see characters like Olivia, we see that she's in mourning because her father and her brother have both died, and she's decreed that she's going to stay in mourning for 8 years or something. And then all of a sudden, Viola shows up dressed like a boy, and everything goes out the window. You know what I'm thinking there, don't you, Meg Hunter? So these characters, how are they connected to each other? Because we've got this island environment with a small group of people who are very connected, and there's definitely a need for these characters to be more connected. That's about all I can say without giving everything away. There's a need for connection and a need for people to understand everybody else's identities within the wider framework of the story of the play. Then the next one is the action. So what actually happens? See, if we were looking at Romeo and Juliet, there's a lot more action or things that physically do happen in that play. You start with a street brawl, and then you've got being called down by the prince, and then you've got a birthday party, and then you've got all these people together, and then you've got boy meets girl and this intense romantic relationship starting to happen. Whereas in Twelfth Night, it's not so many things that happen. But what does happen? So what are the physical things you can see happening? And do remember there's a plot and there's a subplot. So what's happening to those characters in that top plot? So we've got the Duke, we've got Olivia, we've got Viola in this plot line. And then you've got that subplot, which is the Malvolio and Maria and Sir Andrew and Sir Toby. And then there's those extra characters that just sort of are happening a little bit later on, like Sebastian and Antonio. So what's physically happening? So how can you summarize the story without having to say absolutely everything that goes on? Because of course we've just gone through all of that and we haven't even mentioned the Fool once, and yet the Fool's quite integral to what's going on, particularly in Olivia's household. Right, so then you get to time. So what's the time frame that this is set at? What's the time frame of the play? How long does this go on for? That we know it starts just before a shipwreck. and it ends with a wedding, but what goes on in between? If we were talking Romeo and Juliet, that's 3.5 days. So that's a hell of a lot of intensity pushed into one little block. You know, if we were looking at The Winter's Tale, it starts at the beginning and then where it ends is about 16 years later. So as far as time goes, they're very different. It's also very different in terms of how long you're physically watching the play for, because the play's only going to be about 2-3 hours long if you don't cut a single line. So what's the passing of time in the play? What's the time frame that it's set? Has Shakespeare got a time frame that it was set? Is there a time frame that the story's pulled from? And how does that bear some relevancy to what's going on? Is there anything relevant about the time? You could argue that if you were looking at a play like Julius Caesar, time is absolutely crucial, because there's a play that's a history play and it's based on a thing that happened in a particular time frame. Or in ones like Romeo and Juliet, where time plays a massive role between the passing of day and night and that allusion to sunlight and Juliet and all that sort of nonsense that goes on under the cover of darkness. Yes, Meg Hunter, you know what I'm talking about. And then the fact that you've got that if the message had got to Romeo before all hell broke loose, he would have known that it wasn't a real death, that Juliet was just sleeping. But because that message didn't get through and he rushes there and then he takes the poison and then she wakes up just after. So time plays a massive issue there. In Winter's Tale, also massive issue because there's a damn character called Time, you know? So is time important in Twelfth Night? And then the last one is the tension, or the subtext. What's really going on in the play? What's the play really about? Sometimes if we were in an English class, you would refer to this as being the themes. So what are the themes? What are the themes that are motivating these characters? That what's the underlying message of the play? Now the thing is that these are easily Googleable. You've got all the resources connected in the bottom of your Google Doc and both in the Google Classroom as well as to what some of these things are. And I just want to see what your ideas are on top of everything else, or how you can synthesize some of those. All right, so today it's the whole play in a Pratt form. So place, roles, action, time, and tension. And if you can put that in there, flick me an email and I'll have a check and see how you're looking. Yeah, and if it goes anything like today's discussion, then yeah, you're going to be fine. Don't overthink it, all right? Take care, and I will send you another video tomorrow. And then, actually no, I won't send you a video tomorrow because it's a Friday and I've got to remember that there's still only meant to be 4 lessons a week. But you can still email me anytime, so don't feel like you've got to email me in a certain time frame. Just message me whenever and I'll get back to you whenever, if that makes sense. Okay, my lovelies, take care and I'll catch up with you later.